We have over 50,000 paying customers. We're about to hit 5 million in annual recurring revenue. I think Dan and I are now thinking about how does Untitled go from here, because we're not a tools company, we're a creativity company. The customer that we're building for is someone that we're very inspired by. So it's like we're just dreaming of the day that our favorite artists, we're gonna use the app.
I mean, that's the magic of Untitled, right? Is that we're focused on the artist, right? And we want to build great tools for the artist, and the business model is incentivizing us to do that.
There's a quote you guys have. If an artist is releasing maybe, let's say 10 albums over the course of their career, which is maybe like 100 to 200 songs, then they've definitely made over 10,000 songs. A lot of that music gets sent to just a few people, whether it's your mom, your significant other, whatever.
We try to convince artists like, hey, drop the demos, put liner notes. We try to like literally brainwash them to want to do it. And then we see Lorde, obviously one of the biggest artists in the world, do this out of her own volition.
That made us cry too, because she dropped the museum behind her album. Like what Dan was
right.
saying about like how you walk into a museum and you get to see all the notes, all the drafts, all the context.
Funnily enough, during that era that we were on the bus together, Jose would always come to me and be like, yo, we need to start a band together. I'll write the songs, you play the instruments.
I was just waiting for the moment. And then Dan calls me one day and he's like, what if we start a music company together? And I was like, 100%, let's go.
You guys are not engineers. You're not really musicians. You're not even maybe really designers.
We're as untitled as it comes.
Welcome to Dialectic, episode 55, with Dan Lilienthal and José Chayet. Dan and Jose are the founders of Untitled, which they call a sacred place for your unreleased music. Artists all over the world use Untitled to store, listen to, and share their unreleased and work-in-progress music, and increasingly are even releasing some of that music. Hundreds of thousands of artists use Untitled every month, from 16-year-olds signing their first record deal to Lorde, who recently dropped XRAYS, which is a 49-track list of demos on the one-year anniversary of her album Virgin. She dropped it on Untitled for her fans to check out and dive into the weeds and kind of explore the museum of the work in progress that went into the finished album. I met up with Dan and Jose in their studio, just an amazing space in Williamsburg that is one of my better podcast backdrops. So if you aren't watching this one, you can at least pull up the video to check out their space. And we talked about art and creativity and musicians, but also product design and having an extreme empathy for users, or what Jose, I think, calls role-playing or method acting. Dan and Jose are incredible product thinkers, but they aren't really designers, nor engineers, nor musicians. They are this sort of weird blend of product obsessives who are also deeply empathetic for musicians and how they make their work. And they have built a rare platform that serves artists and creatives directly and charges them. And we also talk about building a company with your best friend, which is a pretty amazing aspiration. Jose and Dan grew up together in San Diego, and their families lived together in Mexico City long before they were even born. So they have quite a lineage that continues today with Untitled. You can find a transcript and all the links mentioned in the episode at dialectic.fm/untitled. And if you enjoy the episode, there is no better way to help out than to share it with a friend. Towards the end of the conversation, Jose and Dan mention the origins of the company and the name. And that was a simple, untitled Notion document that they got started writing their ideas in. And I think there are many stories like that. It makes me proud, as Notion is the presenting partner of Dialectic. Notion is the tool that powers collaboration for your life's work. Life's work is certainly the right descriptor for Dan and Jose's work at Untitled. And what I love about Notion's approach to how they make software and increasingly make tools around artificial intelligence is that they are focused on helping you and your collaborators do your best work while also getting leverage from a tool that integrates AI and agents into the place where you do the actual work. The doc, the database, the blank page with a name on it at the beginning of your company. It starts with Notion and it continues with Notion. Many teams all over the world, from small startups to large organizations, run on Notion. And now Notion gives you access to all of the world's best AI models, from frontier models from the big labs to cost-efficient open weight models right in Notion the day they launch. And you have access to all of your agents. You can tag them, tag Claude, tag Cursor, tag custom agents that you've created in Notion to help you and your team have more time to focus on the work that counts. You can learn more at notion.com/dialectic. And with that, here's my conversation with Dan and Jose of Untitled. Gentlemen, Dan and Jose. Well, first of all, thank you for letting me in this wonderland that we have here, the studio. Is it just the studio? We have a name for it yet?
We're calling it studio in brackets.
Okay.
Well, studio. it's stylized in brackets.
And the website is studioinbrackets.com, spelled out. Sorry for the shameless plug.
Because you can't type in brackets into a URL.
The brackets, is there a significance to the brackets besides the fact that the word untitled looks better inside of them?
That's one aspect to it. One other way to kind of describe it is like negate, like basically like the negotiation, the tightrope, the relationship between negation and common ground. So untitled is the negation and the brackets is the common ground. So the marriage between sort of contrarian takes, contrarian attitudes, and then that marriage is innovation, right? You got to land the plane, that's the brackets, and you got to have the edge, you got to have the pushing the envelope. So untitled inside of two brackets is that blend that leads to our favorite art, our favorite music, our favorite technology. We're just fans of all that stuff, just like we get the same feeling when we hear new music that blows our minds as when we saw the first iPhone come out. So that's what we're here for.
What is that feeling when something's new and fresh and interesting?
It's like this like obsession. It's like holy, like it's like you're like, it's like childlike curiosity. I got that feeling when I went to Copenhagen for the first time in 2006. So 20 years ago, design, architecture, all that stuff was like not, there was no, Instagram obviously, and Copenhagen had the sickest architecture and design in the world. Like even just like the showers, the water coming from the ceiling instead of from like a shower head, like something as cool as that just didn't exist anywhere else. And it felt like you were on another planet. Just this feeling of like, I've never seen this before in my life. It's kind of like this, like the universe is expanding, like it's like, it's like, wow.
I didn't know this was possible.
This was the world. Yeah, this was the world. And now the world just got a little bit bigger.
That's a beautiful way of putting it.
Yeah.
Because there's also plenty of, I don't know, you could imagine an artist you love puts out an album or a song that is great, but also like not that different, which isn't, as I'm hearing it, isn't quite this feeling. Or the iPhone 17, it's great, but like, I remember when the Gizmodo leak for the iPhone 4 came out, and like it was the first one that was like flat. And I was
That's
like,
your first one.
Oh my gosh. That's cool. Another abstract question, and then we'll go more specific, but I think this is you, Jose. Music is a 4-dimensional form of communication. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think it's we haven't really said that as much.
I think that's a big ass kids interview.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't said that as much recently, but I think when we were sort of on that wave, which we still are, and we've been talking about this a little bit more, and I think that's kind of interesting with like the podcasting. Audio is this thing that allows you to sort of imagine what's going on visually in your head, right? So if you're listening to a podcast, or you're listening to a song, you can be playing a film visually, and that kind of mystique of like what it is, like the fact that you get to place whatever image or whatever idea in there yourself, it becomes maybe larger than what it really is.
It's participatory too.
Participatory.
Putting yourself into it.
So I think kind of what we were saying there is we think that anyone's going to be able to make music one day. That's how we started Untitled. Obviously now it's very much happening with AI. So we thought like, okay, one day people are going to be sending each other songs the way that they send each other text messages, but it'll be a 4-dimensional text message. I'll be able to explain to you everything that I feel about you or about a situation in a song that has maybe less words than a giant text. But you'll be able to kind of feel what I'm feeling in this kind of high fidelity format that didn't really exist before.
And by the way, I would say that people already do that with songs.
For sure. No, for sure. The best songs are insane. You're like, how did you write the perfect lyrics? How did you do it that way with the perfect melody? It's insane.
What do you think?
I mean, recently I think a lot of people feel this way, but specifically to me, it's been kind of a weird time in music where on the one hand, there's a lot of music coming out, obviously every day, right? There's 200,000 songs coming out every day. And so there's a lot of music, and we get to see music from all over the world, and we get to have access to the tiniest of artists from the tiniest of countries. Yet at the same time, on the other hand, it's like so hard to find things that are so fresh and like give us that feeling that we were just talking about. Actually, one of our investors yesterday, Mo Koifman, who I think you know, he was just talking to us yesterday about how music is, for the majority of humans, the way that they connect with the divine. Which I thought was very
in
beautiful.
this room, like we're all in this
like
room,
sitting there because the couch was rearranged.
Sorry, I blew up the room.
He's like critiquing us, giving us harsh feedback. Being a great, like caring yet strict parent. Hoping, pushing us for the best, and he lands on that. On that, like he lands on that. That's where
he was preaching it, and it was very true. And something you see across like any religion is that music is a key part of that.
Yeah.
From like at any temple, whether it's any religion, like you'll see people singing. Singing is a big part of religion because, again, music is a way you connect with the divine. So anyways, as I was saying, like one thing that is beautiful, obviously, is we get to see music from all over the world. But at the same time, it's hard to feel things that make you feel that divine. It's been hard to find that for me personally. And similar to what Jose is saying, honestly, the shit that makes me feel closest to divine is the stuff that my friend is making. And when Jose sends me music, when I listen to Jose's music, like that's the stuff that makes me tap into the divine the most. Because not only do I get to visualize like my friend feeling these emotions and someone that I'm already emotionally connected to, but also I get to like visualize myself feeling that for him. It's like tapping into something like deeper than yourself.
And when we started the company, we would say like, holy shit, like these artists are really living in the future, because they get to do this with each other already. Like we're saying like, oh, everyone's going to be able to feel this amazing way of connecting with each other, connecting with the divine, whatever. But like you see some of these collectives, some of these scenes.
Brockhampton was a big one.
People playing music for each other, but even going back like 60 years, right?
Yeah.
Like 50 years, like all these artists being able to share music with each other and being able to, like you talk to artists and they're so tuned in to the world and to the universe, to energies. They'll like guess something about you. They'll guess your favorite movie. They'll like be from a city that like connects to your childhood or to like something special to you. Artists are like really, really special people. They really are living. They're living in the future.
You're tapped into like another frequency, And I think something that Rick Rubin actually talks a lot about is around like the similarities between like magic and music.
Yeah.
And actually recently Jose and I.
Oh my God.
Yeah. This was the first time that I think both of us finally understood what Rick Rubin was talking about.
I was always like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like what does this mean? Like I think magic had never been that for us.
Yeah.
But we were at this dinner. There was this magician, actually, he went by a mentalist.
Okay.
Insane.
I had never heard the word mentalist until this.
Insane.
But this guy, for example, I'll give you one example of something that he did. Basically, he asked one of the guests at this dinner to take out their phone, just look at the phone, and think of their passcode. Not open the phone, nothing. Just think of the passcode. That's it. Just think of the passcode. Put the phone away. Then he asked me to grab my phone, open the phone keypad, right? Put it at like eye length so that I can't see the actual keypad, and then just go like this 4 times without seeing it.
Just literally
just like don't look and just do, right?
Yeah.
Take my phone down. He's like, all right, grab Matthew's phone, the guy's phone. Now put that key, those numbers that you just put into your phone into his phone. The phone, like that was the code. The phone opened.
And then even crazier, he basically had his girlfriend like think of what she had for breakfast that morning.
Yeah, insane.
And then he's like, all right, someone go on my Instagram, like on the mentalist's Instagram. And then we go on his Instagram, and his Instagram bio says, I had what she had for breakfast this morning. His bio said it.
Insane. But how do you do that? Like, you have to be tapped into something beyond us, like another frequency.
What do you think this is with artists or musicians? When you've gotten up close with this, like What do you think that? Because part of what you were talking about earlier around, especially sharing music with each other in a way that's really personal. There's an interesting juxtaposition, which is in some sense, music, especially today, can be like global and universal, and you have artists who literally have hundreds of millions of people who listen to them. And then there's a different element, which is more what you guys were speaking about, which is like a deep level of intimacy. The act of sharing a song that maybe no one else has ever heard or will ever hear with one other person. Or even the connection between, hey, my friend shared this. Like it's not just the same as hearing a song. If the person who shared it with me has totally changed the context of the song.
Yeah.
But when you think about like what artists are, why do you think they're getting close to this magic? And is it specific to music, or do you think it applies to all kinds of art? I know you guys also have art backgrounds.
I don't think it's specific to music at all. Like I think in any medium, you'll find people tapped in, like tapped into that frequency. Like being an artist doesn't just mean making music, right? You could make film, you can make, you could write books, you could do all that. But I think musicians just, they have because like, I guess sound is like could be so like therapeutic to anyone. But like it feels like music is like so, I guess, democratized in the sense that like anyone can enjoy it.
I would go beyond that and say that music can be a form of it can be like psychedelic. Like it is a putting on music, walking around. It's like changes the scene in the movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
In a way.
Yeah, for sure.
But also like, for example, reading, you have to have like a certain level. Sometimes you have to have a certain level of like literacy. You have to have a certain level of like focus to be able to do it.
Totally.
Same with books, same with movies and whatnot. Whereas music can like be enjoyed by anyone. Whether you're like a 5-year-old kid who like doesn't know how to read yet, to like a 70-year-old lady who like has dementia. Like anyone can enjoy it. So it's like a different, I don't know, it's just a different frequency.
And then the other thing is that abstract element, right? So like if you think about movies, they do have to be, there's some great movies that are, not so on the nose, that, it's kind of it's pulling you in slowly, but ultimately there's going to be some storyline, there's going to be some plot. Some of our favorite music, I mean, we were all, in Carnegie Hall, I told you shed a tear basically.
Probably more than one.
And if we were to say like, what's that whole album about?
What's the point?
What's the point? It would be a interesting conversation. I don't know if we would arrive anywhere specifically, but that's what makes the best artists, right?
Yes.
That whole.
And I would say that does apply to other mediums, but it's like oftentimes the best films, they are challenging. They do, but music especially so.
Yes. No, that's what I'm saying is like movies can have that like, what did I just watch element,
right?
But music has it to another level.
I think also music compared to like a movie, for example, is not as much like escapism of your own life. Whereas like watching a movie, even if it's like the best movie ever that you left and you're like, what the fuck just happened? Like you escaped your own reality.
Yes.
In those 2 hours or 3 hours, however long the movie is, right? Whereas with music, if you listen to an amazing song, an amazing album, you never escaped a reality. You went within yourself and you probably imagined yourself with the lyrics of the song. You imagined your reality and how it related to the songs. Like,
or what you said about the, like it changes the filter of life.
Right.
Like you've got AirPods in the grocery store and you're blasting.
But it's still
something.
life.
I mean, that's why it's a psychedelic.
It's not an escape.
Yes.
It's still life, but it's
it's an overlay.
It's like
an overlay.
Yeah.
It's like AR versus VR.
It's a great way of putting it. It's funny. This reminds me of a conversation I had with Henrik Carlson, the writer, and he was talking about how certain forms of media or certain forms of art, they sort of suck you in. But when you come out of them, like a TikTok, you didn't really learn anything about yourself. You didn't put any of yourself into it. Whereas he wasn't talking about music, although I'm sure he would agree. He was talking about a painting. He's like, when you look at a painting for 10 minutes, which is probably as long as you could realistically actually look at a painting, it almost sort of spits you back out, and you are almost prompted to have your own experience. it's not so much like come be engaged here. It's like this is a thing for you to go put yourself into and learn some things. And I think that the best art, and certainly some of the most interesting mediums, including music, it's closer to that versus like you could even imagine two different types of film. An avant-garde kind of strange film that would take 3 watches to really understand versus a Marvel movie. The Marvel movie's really entertaining, but like I've rarely ended a Marvel movie like with thoughts about myself or with thoughts about my life.
Yeah.
And so I think that music is beautiful in the way that it's almost always prompting something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've definitely never left a Marvel movie feeling like, oh my God, this is going to change. This like changed something in my
Which
life.
is okay. Like I think
besides the joy that I felt
to be
in
entertained.
those 2 hours.
Right. But it's you're more on a track.
Yeah.
I think this is also you, Jose. Art was democratized through conceptual art and photography. We believe the same will happen for music. It's going to be reduced to a series of choices.
Yeah.
A million places that could go. Obviously, the AI piece is hanging over it, but I think it also is a nice setup for what Untitled is and is doing. Maybe to start, how is music changing?
All mediums are very similar. They all have their own methods of creation, distribution, and consumption. And we in art history, we saw that, you know, as these painters, these photographers, they were like messing around, and Marcel Duchamp primarily was really, really just curious and like trying to like poke holes and figure out what's next. And he's like, holy shit, it's just really like my choices, you know, like that's all. If everything else is reduced down to 0 from a cost standpoint or a labor standpoint or whatever, it really is just like, what do I want? You know, what do I see? What do I want to see? So for music, that's been happening slowly but surely. For example, in art, you've got found objects, right? Like that's what Duchamp was. And then in music, sampling, hip hop, found sounds. You know, it's the same thing. People
Although
curating.
for what it's worth, a found sound, part of the reason I asked this question is you guys have built a company more or less kind of fundamentally oriented around the idea of a work in progress.
Yeah.
And implicit in a work in progress is process.
Yes.
Notably, a ready-made, at least, unlike a sample,
which I
is almost
pitched down
without
on Ready Made being the name of the company.
Really?
By the way.
A ready-made is almost without process, right? Like in a world where you press a button once with Suno or whatever and you generate a song.
Yeah.
That feels energetically pretty like far from a app and product that is almost entirely about like artists and musicians being able to share the entirety of the process and all of those choices.
I think one thing that, and I guess it goes back to us being like obsessed with like new things, right? And when we get obsessed with a new thing, we go very deep, right? Like we don't want to just like listen to a great song and like that's it, right? We want to like go deep on the artist, find their interviews, right? Like scour the web, try to find everything about them, you know, see if there's movies on them, see if there's TV shows. Like we get obsessed with that type of stuff. And one thing that Jose and I would talk a lot about, you know, as we were starting the company, before the company, is how a lot of the greatest artists in the world were incredible draftsmen, right? And like Picasso would go through, you know, tens of versions, hundreds of versions for any of his big paintings, right? Like Guernica had a bunch of versions to them. And one thing that exists in that medium, in the medium of painting, is the museum, right? And being able to like go through the versions, getting all the context on the story of that painting, and then you get to see the painting. Right? In music, that didn't really exist, you know? Like if you really wanted to like get an understanding of the story of an album or the story of a song, you have to do a lot of research. You maybe have to go online, try and find things, and most likely you wouldn't find all the demos, you wouldn't find all the voice memos, you wouldn't find all the notes. You know, nowadays you have obviously podcasts that try and do this retroactively with like Diary of a Song and Song Exploder and whatnot, but that just didn't exist. So one of the things that, you know, as music fans really inspired us to want to build Untitled is to be able to build that place that stored the entire story of your music and documented the whole process, so that as fans and as, you know, people who just love music, you get to have all that context in one place.
Mm-hmm. And the story in some sense is just a string of choices.
Yes. Yeah. No, like that's the whole thing. So like with Fountain, which kind of kicked off the ready-made and things like that. You show up to a museum, you don't really know what's going on, you're not reading, you're like, okay, so the guy bought a toilet.
Yes.
Like that's what happened. But then if you really are interested in the story and you realize that this guy was on, you know, the board of this exhibition and submitted it anonymously and then saw his peers disregard it
Yeah.
and then
yeah.
made a fake newspaper saying that this is ridiculous, and the newspaper was by him, but like him talking about this anonymous person that submitted it, and like just all these things, and you're like, this guy's like kicking and screaming about something, and you kind of read about it and you're like, whoa, that's cool. Right? And that the physical, the last piece of it, so like if we want to talk about AI or whatever, it's like, oh, that last, yeah, we don't know. I don't think Dan and I have fallen in love with the song yet, that like the last stroke of the story was a prompt and you hit a button and then you listen to it.
Right.
I think we're certainly excited about that happening, and we will feel the same way that we felt when the iPhone came out, or the first time that, you know, I connected with like the Beatles music. It's highly unlikely that it's going to just happen in a vacuum. You know, I think like everything is storytelling, right? Like thousands of years ago, like all we just care about is telling stories, and we're just getting more sophisticated at doing that. And there's all these different mediums of how to tell a story. We all choose our different tools: movies, podcasts, music, art, photography, company building, fashion. And ultimately speaking, music will resonate if people can get behind the story, and the story is at the will of the storyteller. And again, a series of choices. Like it's just what are you gonna do?
Also, the best art, the best things usually are the most unexpected, right? Like we didn't see it coming, right? Like the best, Kanye West album, right? Like when he made it, it was like, whoa, I didn't see this coming. And I think right now with AI specifically, like when you make something with AI, like it's kind of expected. It's like you never hear something, you're like, wow, that is so unique. That is so weird. And actually something that we've heard a few times already from artists that we hang out with is like they actually liked music AI more in the earlier days when like
I've heard this point made about GPT-2 and poetry.
Yeah, when it was like it just spit it out
was
the
just saying crazy
randomest,
random
like weirdest shit. And it's like you had no idea that that's what was going to come out of it. Whereas like now it's like
it's almost too good.
Like so specific. It's too good. Yeah, it's too good.
You mentioned mediums. I think this is from your guys' jobs page, and this is a way into actually talking about the product. Now that we've circled in the clouds a little bit, the deeper bet is that we're building a new medium, not just a better set of tools. Music in progress is its own form of communication, and it has never had a place built for it. I think it would be helpful first, for those unfamiliar, to talk about what Untitled is as it stands today. And then I suppose my follow-up question would be, where are you on that spectrum from set of tools to new medium, assuming that it is a work in progress?
We think that when you blur the lines between creation and consumption, right? So like you've got things like 20th century in Paris, you're painting right across the street for where you're showing your artworks, and those two methods of production and consumption are getting nearer to each other. Distribution goes to zero. With Instagram or with Snapchat, when you're taking the pictures on the same platform that you're distributing the pictures, distribution goes down to zero. So our whole idea, and then when you democratize creation, anyone can do it. And so you have this amazing flywheel of creation and consumption, right? I'm seeing you make something and I can make it too.
Yep.
And so we're just all kind of inspiring each other to make things. So Untitled from the very, very beginning was always centered around, we're going to build something for artists to make music here, but it has to be just as good for listening as it is for creation, because listening is that thing that powers the whole thing. It's a flywheel. I listen to the demo, then I want to make the first version. Then I want to make the second version. Then I want to mix it. Then I want to post it. then they listen to it, and then I want to make more. And that whole mechanism maybe existed a little bit on SoundCloud and MySpace, a
SoundCloud
little
probably
bit.
the closest comp in music.
Yeah, I think MySpace for some earlier generations, I think they felt that way too. But Dan and I felt like we could actually bring design and principles to the product itself such that it doesn't turn into a Frankenstein product, doesn't turn into something that the founders or the builders of it don't even know what it is, and they're just like throwing paint at the wall. We felt like music deserved something that had craft, that had strategy, that had principles, such that we could turn this thing into the operating system for musicians, the way that Notion exists for the workplace, or GitHub exists for engineering, or Figma exists for design. We were like, let's bring that level of focus and craft to a medium that we genuinely love.
But the big problem before we even existed was that different companies were focused, or different products, different companies, whatever you want to call it, were focused on like a very specific use case. It's like, hey, we need to build a better tool for, publishers to get songs heard by sync people, right? Which at the end of the day, people are using Untitled for that now, but that's a very myopic use case, right? And the thing that, we brought to the table, and we brought to the world, is that we were just outsiders to everything. Like, we were outsiders to making music. Like, we made music. Jose was making a bunch of music on GarageBand. I was managing my older brother, but we were still outsiders. Like, we never worked in it. We didn't have parents that worked in it. We really didn't have friends that worked in it. So we were outsiders, and we had, that perspective. On the perspective of technology, we're not engineers, and we're also not technically like designers when it comes to the pixels, right? So like, we also weren't the ones going to be building it. So what we had was just, basically an intuition around what type of product we wanted for ourselves.
Based on what? Based on your using GarageBand?
I think GarageBand and music and all that stuff was like sort of like inspiring our music intuition, but our product intuition was like Snapchat and Instagram, and obviously everything Apple. But like with Snapchat and Instagram, like, I don't know if you remember, like, people were using Snapchat in such weird ways. Like, people had like Snapster pieces. They literally could. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That they would like do all the doodling and the drawing
Awesome.
and all that stuff. It's like all these products that, I can't speak for Snapchat in the last 8 years, but back in the day, it really felt like Evan Spiegel and, whoever was around him were doing things in a very principled, very intentional way, where a product like the camera could be just as good for texting as it could be for broadcasting, and it's like, I'm going to create here, I'm going to be fun, I'm going to be loose, I'm going to post a story, and it was all through a simple system that starts with the camera, blah, 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 dun, dun, dun. So that's Dan and I's philosophy, is like simplicity and flexibility, where a product isn't just built for submitting songs to appear in movies. A product isn't just built for, let me get my management company to like give me, support on this album, or let me get the label to sign this project, or let me get this producer to send me a beat, or let me get this songwriter to help me finish this song. Like, there were all these products that existed for those individual things. And maybe in B2B SaaS, you could create those like individual like wedges that turn into billion-dollar businesses, at least pre-AI. That was a whole thing of like,
Yep.
But
pull a super simple problem.
music's
feature.
not big enough for that.
Simple and very intentional. So, for example, before we existed, a lot of artists and producers and some of the biggest names in music, to make their albums, would use the Notes app. You would literally you would go on their phone, and you would just see a literal notes doc, like on the Apple Notes app, with tens, hundreds of files.
And this
that's
is
how
because there weren't enough people building dedicated music
It
companies.
just wasn't simple tools built for that.
The people that were building the dedicated music companies were basically building these like niche bootstrapped apps that are like, hey, I'm a mixing engineer. This is my workflow. I'm going to automate it and then have other mixing engineers enjoy
And not very
the
well
fruits of
designed.
my
Got it.
my thing. But, you know,
What about the stuff like the bigger names that people know, so Ableton or whatever? Like they're just
Yeah.
too much horsepower.
I mean, Ableton is built for creation, right? Like Ableton is purely built for producing music, you know, getting very in the weeds with sound, you know, getting very in the weeds with like, basically, I don't know if the camera's catching this, but like these knobs right here.
that's able.
Yeah, that's literally Ableton.
No, seriously.
Right here. No, like this is what Ableton is.
And that's
right?
the thing. Dan and I come from that sort of like tree of simplicity. So like obviously like Ableton would be Photoshop.
Yep.
And then Instagram, Snapchat.
Got it.
You know,
Got it.
like or the camera app or the Photos app on iPhone. That's sort of what we're aiming to be for audio.
To go back to your Snapchat analogy, if Snap was built around this, what can you do with a camera that anyone has? Is there a metaphor for Untitled initially?
It's such a good question. So no, like it's not like you open up Untitled and you have this like blank canvas where you can start recording music. In fact, again, because you know one of the things that's sort of different between, and obviously like, again, it's been 6 years. We haven't built a feed or any sort of like social network on Untitled. The way that people connect on Untitled is implicitly using other platforms like iMessage and WhatsApp, etc. There's no way to like send someone something on Untitled inside of Untitled.
You're relying on like the internet's distribution, basically.
Yeah. So and the reasoning behind that is because, you know, music is still a very sensitive medium compared to photography, texting, and all these things. So like we felt like all the apps that had sort of internal networks for music just got really cringe really, really quickly.
Yep.
Right? Because music is one of these things that, like, to be honest, like I'll work on something for a really long time before I want someone else to listen to it. Dan, you know, similar, like just artists similar, right? Like even the most prolific ones where everything that they make is amazing, they're still very shielded. So you have to start from a place of privacy. Like you're
a slower sharing kind of like I'm going to share it with one person and then two people and then five, not.
I mean, oftentimes,
and TikTok kind of like when I saw TikTok drafts for the first time, I was like, oh, this is the first time that I've seen in social media, in like, you know, pop consumer products actually have this like private place for you to do stuff. And honestly, you got to give them credit, and they crushed it. But that kind of felt rare at the time of us exploring all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general for people who take photos, right? You have the Photos app, right? You have a great place where you can just like go back and see all the photos that you're taking. You know, if you want to edit one, you can go back and, you know, edit it a little bit. If you want to share it, you can obviously share it from there. In music, that just didn't exist, right? If you're someone that is making a lot of music for yourself, for your friends, for others, like the existing tools that existed before us were something like, the closest thing was probably like a SoundCloud. And SoundCloud, going back to like unintentional tools, is a platform that throws a bunch of random music at you when you open it, right? You go on SoundCloud, you open it up to a feed. You see a bunch of random tracks by random people that are being recommended to you. If you want to get to your own music, it takes like 3 to 4 steps just to get to your own music. And when you're in the mindset of like, hey, I want to go listen to my own song, I want to go listen to a song my friend sent, like the last thing you want is like to enter this place
Discovery.
that is all noisy. Right. You know, like imagine if you open your iPhone photos, you know, when you wanted to go see the photo of that restaurant that you took, like you then, the first thing you see is like just a bunch of discovery, the Instagram algo in your face.
Yeah, it's a great point. Can we just quickly, for people who aren't familiar or haven't used the product, what is Untitled today? What is the sort of, assuming it's, again, somewhere on that spectrum of set of tools to medium.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about where it's going and where it's been, but what is it sort of as it stands today? Who's using it? Yeah. What can it do?
I mean, the one sentence that we usually say with Untitled is that we're the best place to store, listen, share, and organize your work in progress music.
So most users are musicians ranging from total amateur to professional. They have a couple songs in there to 100 songs in there. And they're not making music in Untitled for the most part, or they are?
Like making, like, you know,
Well,
like,
this goes back to our this goes how much of music is the thing behind you versus I have a guitar and a voice memo.
Just one thing I do want to say is that the magic about Untitled and us building such a simple, flexible tool is that the platform is being used by people who literally know how to use this like the back of their hand, who could like fucking wire things, move things, know everything about sound, to literally a 16-year-old kid who just started making music on BandLab on their iPhone.
Got it. What else can you do with the product? Like maybe the double click on that line around creation, consumption.
Well, there's creation, there's workflow, distribution, and consumption.
So what do those mean? What does that mean today?
I would say just as a baseline for people that maybe don't make music, and we would talk about this when we were fundraising back in the day, is like sort of there's like an unbundling of a lot of things, and Dropbox was being unbundled into, different verticalized solutions. So you had Frame.io for video.
Yep.
We were unbundling Dropbox into this audio-centric cloud service.
Okay.
So instead of receiving a series of audio files that didn't have those special features for audio inside of the product, we built this like purpose-built thing that you receive 10 audio files and you can actually play them through front to back. You can loop the audio file. You can do timestamped comments. You can do things that are specific to the medium.
Yep.
And audio is a first-class citizen.
And that was like a really great Dropbox for songs was effectively like the very, very first product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing that Jose and I talk a lot about, and it's funny because we were very young, right, when the iPod came out. But one thing that we talk a lot about is that the last time that it was easy to listen to your own work in progress music
As easy
was with the iPod.
Yeah.
Right? Because the iPod obviously had the beautiful connection between iTunes and the iPod. It was easy to upload the files from your computer to iTunes and sync it to your phone. Right. That's it. Easy. And obviously the iPod was built purely for listening to music. Yep. Right? Whereas, the last, 25 years, during the iPod and after the iPod, people were using Dropbox and Google Drive and all these tools that were built for everything and for nothing at the same time.
Right.
Whereas we decided to focus purely on music and what that medium needs.
And so maybe to go backwards, set of tools now. By the way, you have other things. You have now you can actually sell access to songs before they're released. These different types of things. Presumably more creative tools are coming, so on. Where are you on this sort of vision of creating a new medium for work in progress stuff? Where are you in the sort of set of amalgamation of tools to medium spectrum? Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, our philosophy up until now, I think things are changing a little bit because we've reached this kind of interesting point right now where we have over 50,000 paying customers. We're about to hit 5 million in annual recurring revenue. And I think Dan and I are now thinking about, how does Untitled go from here? Because we're not a tools company. We're a creativity company, and we want to build the biggest creativity company possible. But up until now, it's been like, listen, build tools that are very useful in a very simple, principled way. And if you just kind of get out of the way and you don't do too much, the medium will start sort of emerging. So for example, like if you don't really think too much about like what a string of tracks is, like don't call it an album, don't call it, we actually originally in the previous app, we had a few versions of the app before we released it publicly. We used to call it a work in progress, a whip. And there's going to be like a whole advertisement campaign of like, yo, check out my whip, like things like that. But we ended up calling it a project because it just felt like the most flexible, the most like neutral, the most like out of the way. And so now people share projects as their albums. People share projects as beat tapes, as beat packs, as like a string of demos that they actually want to go record. Some people actually record voice memos. This one artist, she was telling us that she recorded a 1-hour morning routine inside of Untitled that every morning she wakes up and she basically tells herself what to do. Like, have coffee for 5 minutes, like meditate for 2 minutes,
Wow.
do your, like, make your bed, like things like that. And so the more you get out of the way, the more that you just kind of like put stakes in the ground wherever necessary. But outside of that, like, don't overdo it. The medium will start emerging without much, like,
Force. or
yeah,
push.
much force, exactly.
Can you guys talk a little bit about, as far as I understand, 6 years into the company, product initially launched in late or mid 2023.
August 2023.
What was that period from 2020 to 2023 like? And why, I guess one, why did it take so long to launch something? How much did the idea evolve? What was that process?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that idea didn't really evolve.
Okay.
Like, one thing that's extremely unique about us, about Jose and I, compared to like other startups, is that the idea from the very beginning was very clear and we knew what we wanted to build. Literally the first day that we started the company, like officially, we wrote the product spec.
It was
And what did you write?
It was the best day ever. Number one.
It was the best day ever.
And that's what I was telling
was
you
so
about,
fun.
like kind of like, watching one of your earlier interviews really got me because Dan and I would wake up every morning. That morning we woke up at like 5 a.m. We went on a run,
We were in San Diego, by the way, where we're both from.
right? So like kind of you understand the analogies of like the TVPN guys, going to the gym and like, getting, like, we literally went on a run on the beach. This was September 2020, talking about the product, talking about hiring, fundraising, whatever, all the things that were in our heads. We would go shower. Dan would pick me up. We went to the office and we just started cranking all day. And as Dan said, we wrote the entire product spec in one day.
The product spec, and I want to be clear, the product spec of like what we launched with in 2023 was basically that product spec. Now, since then, it's been 3 years. Like, we added a lot of those editing features, those creation features. That was always part of the vision.
Yep.
Right. But the product spec for V1 of Untitled was what we wrote that, in 2020. But what happened was that, a lot of people, iterate on the product, on the concept, to get to product market fit, to get to, the next
Yours
stage.
was much more top down. It was a vision. It was
For
like,
us, it was like we had to iterate on like how to build the thing.
It was an
what did you write?
execution story.
Like, what did you write? This line you just gave me, which is like, whatever, created blah 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 for work in progress music. What did you write?
Yeah, no, it was it was something
like that.
along the lines.
It's the best way to do the
best
Dropbox.
way
thing.
to-
It was like the mission is help artists nurture and maximize their creative process. What are we building?
The best,
the best
place, for
place
your work
to
in
share,
progress.
listen, and share,
No,
listen, and collaborate
on work in progress. Yeah.
progress.
And
It
you
was all
expected
very
like our
focused on
customers
that.
are going to be artists themselves.
Yes.
Yes.
Artists
Oh, yeah.
themselves.
That was
are gonna pay.
always
yeah.
from the very beginning. Like,
yeah.
we
Big
were,
time.
we would talk. I mean, we were just saying this. Like, we talked a lot about, like,
Strategy.
there's a lot of different companies and products building tools, kind of like this, but focus on different people. Like, focused on the industry person, focused on the manager, focused on the A&R. Since the very beginning, we were always going to be focused on the artist.
For selfish reasons and also for strategic reasons.
Yeah.
Selfish reasons is like we want to be building a product where like the customer that we're building for is someone that we're very inspired by. So it's like we're just dreaming of the day that our favorite artists were going to use the app. And then from a strategic reason, we kind of intuitively felt that, but as Dan and I didn't know anything about the music industry, we didn't understand the leverage that kind of existed.
We basically said that we were really focused on the DIY artist, right? So Jose and I were really obsessed when we started the company with this playlist on Spotify called Pollen.
Yeah.
And back in the day, Pollen was a really, really special playlist because it was basically featuring DIY artists from all over the world. And what we mean by DIY is an artist who's very much in control and has a say into the entire process of their music, right? From the songwriting to the beats to the creative direction to the rollout to the tour, right? They have a say in everything, and they're pretty much in the driver's seat for the whole thing, right? And Pollen featured artists in that world, and we were getting to a place in that era with Pollen that DIY artists were getting very big. Tyler the Creator. I mean, literally his name has the Creator in it, right? Like he is.
It's almost like artist
the
as
best
creative
example
director. is maybe
Yes.
another way to put this. Got it.
Yeah. So anyways, we were really focused on these artists that are very genreless, very DIY, and highly collaborative, right? Like they're collaborating with people all the time. And then anyways, going back to what Jose asked, like one of the big strategic reasons that ended up working out with artists is because artists, you know, if music is a pyramid, right? Artists are at the top of that pyramid, and then everyone else serves whatever the artist wants.
Right,
you know,
right,
as
right.
fucked up or as sick as that
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
you know, it's very much like it's the artist, then it's the producer, you know, a little step below that, then it's the manager, then it's the A&R, and then it's probably publicity.
Yep.
Right? And everyone just serves the artist. So if the artist loves your platform and they love your tool and they're putting all their music on there, then everyone else will follow. And that's exactly what happened.
Got it. Maybe not unlike some of these other metaphors you used around GitHub and Notion and Figma. Like you can get the person who's interesting.
And it's crazy because like now that we're a little more far along, like sometimes we'll be having conversations and, you know, someone will be telling us like why they use the product or whatever. And now it's like kind of like it's one producer told me that this huge artist forces him to use the app. And he doesn't actually like using it. Like, that's what I'm saying is like nowadays I don't really mind someone telling me they don't like the app because it's like, it's fine. But like this huge artist is like, yo, like if you're going to work on my album, like you got to use this app. You got to upload
Why
it
do
here.
you think the artist, do you have a sense when somebody has that level of need for it, it's the easiest way for them to share, they like to listen to their own music there. Is there a most common reason that it's so sticky?
The bread and butter of our product, the reason why people fall in love with it is the listening experience. It's just so good. And listening is so critical to making great music. And, you know,
listening to you, maybe in a non-intuitive way for a non-musician, listening to your own work.
Listening to your own
I mean,
work.
we made your own music feel like your personal Spotify.
Yeah.
Like literally, like I go on Untitled and I literally make really, you know, not amazing music, but I love it because it's my own. And I literally go on the project and it feels like I'm looking at a project on Spotify.
Yeah.
You know, and I have control over it, right? I can change the cover art, I can rearrange the track list, I could change the title, I could then share it with Jose, you know, if I wanted to. But it's very empowering, you know, to be used to like going on Spotify and listening to some of my favorite music from history, and then going on Untitled and looking at my own music and having it feel the same way.
It's cool. You mentioned, as I understand it, you guys are not engineers. You're not really musicians.
Yep.
You're not even maybe really designers.
We're not.
No, we're not. We're as untitled as it comes.
I was talking to our mutual friend and one of your investors, Ethan Daly, about you guys and what I should talk to you about. And he observed that with all of that context, you also didn't really have like a technical why now for this business.
There definitely is no technical why now, but I do think there's like a cultural why now, you know, in the sense that, you know, Jose was alluding to this earlier. Basically, if you look at music, right, you have consumption, you have distribution, and you have creation. And then workflow is kind of like wedged between creation and distribution, but you have those three, right? And consumption basically is what most of music tech innovation has been the last 25 years. We basically have spent the last 25 years trying to figure out how we consume music digitally in a way that the rights holders get compensated. So until that was figured out, it was very hard to think about everything else.
Well, and that was obviously the biggest market.
Yeah, of course. That was obviously
That's
the
the
biggest
venture
market.
scale
And that's where
market.
also most of the graveyard is. That's why a lot of VCs are scared
Yeah.
of investing in music, because there was a lot of companies that died in that era. And obviously Spotify figured it out. And obviously a bunch of companies followed after that to build streaming like Apple. But consumption had to get figured out before you could think about everything else. So when we started the company, you know, Jose and I spoke a lot about this, and we're like, okay, consumption is like 99% optimized, right? Like Spotify and streaming figured it out. So like, let's not do that. Distribution, right? Which is kind of interesting about music, is that music still has to go through a distributor
Right.
to get onto streaming services.
Right. Most of the rest of media is
most it's
distribution's
direct,
over.
right? Like to post this podcast online, like you don't have to go through anyone, you just post it, right? Whereas in music, you have to go through a distributor, and to play in that game and to like do anything new, you really have to be in that world. You have to have a lot of relationships. You have to be a music industry insider. And as we alluded to, Jose and I were like, nope, we didn't do anything in music before this. So we didn't have any insider knowledge or insider relationships. So we couldn't do anything there. And then creation, you know, felt like the area that was the most fertile for innovation, because the last 25 years, no one was really thinking about it too much. Everyone was really thinking about, consumption or distribution, but no one was thinking about creation. So I think there was a cultural why now where, when we started the company, Spotify was popping. Artists could now know that if their song was good and their music was good, they would make money, right? They wouldn't lose money as they did in piracy era and all that. So I think that was a big
Where
reason
does
to it.
this level of your product, I mean, I played around with it enough to have a sense for someone who's not a musician. And this, from everything down to pixels and in the beautiful animations, everything like that, but also like it is clearly built with a deep level of empathy for your user. And yet you don't have like any of the credentials maybe in the wrong way. Like you could imagine a former musician being like, I'm going to make the perfect app for me. That is usually how products like this emerge. It's like, I'm just going to build the thing I need. And I don't want to discredit, like, it sounds like you were making some music, but like Ethan's prompt and point was that perhaps the only real edge is that you have just an obsessive level of empathy for your user.
Yes.
You could call that also product instinct or intuition or taste or something. Where do you think that level of intuition and empathy comes from? Given that you're not inherently making something for yourself.
Yeah. Well, I think so Dan and I, when we started the company, we were like, we're going to be method actors. so we were building something for ourselves.
Okay.
And even if it's not great music, like we were still like, we're going to, but the one credential that's the most important for this product to work was like product sense, and Dan and I, we've just been students of products. We're fans of our favorite products, and we've studied them and we talk about them. And that's what was missing in music, is someone that came in with an opinion on product and had principles, had a philosophy of how to do things, and can direct a team, an organization with that strategy and that vision in mind. So yes, you're 100% right that, like we were talking to a big musician the other day and they're like, it's like as if you're in our brains and like, you know exactly what we want. And to your point, like why didn't a big musician successfully build a product like this? Because some have tried. And the reason is because the product sense wasn't quite there. And then why didn't these amazing engineers or amazing product builders not successfully build some of these products for musicians? Because some have tried and it hasn't quite worked out how they wanted it to. And again, it's that empathy, that method acting, that research, that like genuinely putting yourself in their shoes that didn't quite go that far. So Dan and I, as people who didn't go too deep in either side of it, we decided to go super, super deep in the blend, the amalgamation of what these people need and how you're going to build it.
And I think part of important context as to like why did Jose and I end up doing things in music is that music is like a key part of our DNA and our relationship. Jose and I, our older brothers, we're both the youngest of three siblings. We have two older brothers with significant age differences. And growing up, all of our older brothers were musicians, and some of them were actually in bands together. And they were all into the same music. This was like San Diego, early 2000s, pop punk era. So Jose and I, when we'd be going to school, we would go on the same bus to school. We grew up 5 minutes away from each other. And I was 5 years old. He was 7 years old. We would be talking about all the bands that our brothers were into. So like music has always been one of the main things that we would talk about. And funnily enough, during that era that we were on the bus together, Jose would always come to me and be like, yo, we need to start a band together. I'll write the songs, you play the instruments. So music is a big part of us. And, to be honest, maybe this is very selfish, but we really wanted to work with each other. We really wanted to build a company together. And because music was the thing that we were always talking about, and music was a big part of our DNA, it naturally felt like music was the right thing for us to like spend our life working on together.
We always wanted to work with each other, and we both in college, and I a couple years, graduated college, waiting for Dan to graduate. The obsession with music was like, I think Ethan was 100% right in saying that it's like this level of empathy, obsession with this category is what, made this work out. That combined with like our deep level of excitement to work together. Those two things combined is what
the ignition.
It was the ignition for this company. Because, Dan at some point he came up to me and he's like, yo, I want to start a real estate company. This was before he was excited about starting a music company. He was getting very into music, but for one reason or another, real estate was a possibility. And I was like, great, like go do that. I can't go do that with you. I don't know what, I was literally banging my head on the wall thinking about music. I couldn't stop thinking about music all day long. I would annoy my roommate. I would annoy the people around me at Facebook. Like, I would just be like, I can't stop thinking about music. Like, I need to work on music. It's like, okay, go like on this like random niche, music team or whatever. But like, this is like pre-reels and even now music's not that important. It's not front and center at those types of companies. So I was just waiting for the moment. And then Dan calls me one day and he's like, what if we start a music company together? And I was like,
finally,
100%. Let's go.
Can you talk a little bit about, maybe this ties into some of what you were saying about Snapchat. This is a product that is quite complex and does a lot of different things to the sort of suite of tools point that comes in a very simple package, which is delightful when pulled off well, but like very hard to do. Especially on mobile. Mobile like compresses that, like you just have less real estate. You have less.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how you've navigated that, especially as the product has gained more and more surface area?
I mean, to be honest, though, it's definitely something that we're starting to struggle with because we do have a lot of features.
Yeah.
Right. We have a lot of things that you can do on Untitled, right? Everything from just storing your music and listening to it to stem splitting and changing the EQ of the song, right? And a bunch of other things in between. And so we are getting to the point, and we've heard this already multiple times from users and artists, that they're like, do you guys have like some sort of like FAQ video or, something so that I know like what I can do with this app? Because there's like, obviously I love this app already, but I know there's something.
I love it for this one thing.
I know there's more things I can do with it. I just don't know what. So we've definitely like up until now have gotten to a place where we've been able to like pull off, being able to have a very simple, intuitive tool that works for whatever you need it to, when you need it to, right? But doesn't get in the way if there's things that you don't want to do with it. But I think now, which is part of Jose and I thinking about this next chapter of the company, thinking about like how do we present all these magical tools that we've built in a way that's more intuitive.
Well, especially if they have very different contexts, e.g. The place where I listen to my own music as an artist, also being the place where I can sell or even share it to all my, like, it's delicate, right?
Very.
100%. I think that the one thing that, we have an amazing team that's number one, and Dan and I, part of that 2020 to 2023 like odyssey that we went on was figuring out how to deliver the package in the perfect way. But Dan and I not being technical, not being like in the pixels all day, we have to do something, which is, we're usually talking to each other all day long, and we're debating each other about like literal buttons, where the button is placed on the screen, like how the interaction comes up. And then we bring that level of debate to the rest of the team. And so we love when our designers bring like 30 different versions of an experience, and then we get to discuss aggressively together as a team. Iron sharpens iron, and then we finally like find the truth, like the thing that just feels right. And so everything inside of the app, and this is one thing that worries us a lot, is like, as in the early days when the app was just listening and sharing, there was such little features that you could debate something for a day and it would be worth it and you could get through it. If you've got more and more engineers working on more and more features, how do you actually scale that philosophy, that form of debate, that
The filter almost.
Yeah, because a lot of Untitled went viral on Twitter when we launched originally with designers. Like artists started, so like a lot of designers hit us up about like, how did you think of this? And we generally like really love the way that we have come to make decisions about product, but we are realizing that it doesn't scale. We just created a Claude agent thing called Product Assistant that basically summarizes all the discussions in Slack. And it basically divides them into 2 categories, like decisions that are left outstanding and decisions that were made. And every day at 5 p.m. we get this sort of like digest just to like review like what decisions is everyone collectively making, what's left to be outstanding, what's still yet to do, as just an exercise to see is like, is this a way for us to keep up with all the different things? But the main thing that Dan and I have to do is QA the product itself. I'm actually hearing with AI, people talking about QA being more important because a lot of PRs are getting through and people are spending more time QAing. So I assume QA is now a more important function inside of tech companies. QA has always been the most important function Dan and I have ever done at this company.
We literally say that is our job. You know, back in the day, we would say like our literal job is just QA. But I think the thing that's really tough is kind of is what Jose is saying, like how do you scale intuition, right? Because at the end of the day, a lot of the decisions that we've made on the product and on basically everything that we do has been our intuition. And we are obviously trying to build the biggest music company on the planet. And so to do that, you obviously need to grow the team a lot, and you need to hire more people, and you need to hire more designers, and you need to hire people beyond you that make decisions.
You're trying to build the biggest music company on the planet.
Yeah.
Trying.
Yeah, you have some competition for
Yes, for sure.
There's some big ones.
I mean,
Yeah.
the best things in life are usually very hard.
Have you found, maybe to talk about scaling intuition, have you found you've been able to sort of download your intuition even to individual members on the team?
For
to an
sure.
extent?
For sure. 100%. I mean,
What is
we
that
have
process
people.
like?
We have
What, download or
No, not-
there are people that are on our team.
Yeah,
that
we've
are-
chosen people. I think we've chosen people to be on our team that basically collaborating with them feels like ping pong.
It's magic.
Yeah,
Like, it's honestly
it's
like
amazing.
there's moments
That's
where
when they're coming in. That's like, obviously it compounds over time, but like there's something they have before they've even joined that has like,
yeah, and it's this like
Yeah.
perfect marriage. Like it makes me want every time that there's this moment where we arrive at a solution. For example, like recently, it was this. We just built commenting and inside of the comment. I won't get into it, but inside of the comment, basically we arrived at a solution around commenting to be able to listen to the music while also being able to navigate to the project. And it was hard. It was a UX problem, and we landed on a solution that was so great and exactly what we needed, and it just kind of worked. Just like I wanted to cry because I was just so happy, you know. And those types of moments of collaboration are like Dan and I. We've been telling each other recently, like we love our team so much, and it's so much fun being with them because you push each other, you make each other better. We really believe in that band mentality of like just you're just a core contributor to something bigger than you. And I think as we talk about how like, you know, these non-technical people are end up being the best recruiters because they literally can't do something by themselves. So they need other people. So they become social.
Yeah, and you find the best people because of that, because you feel,
out of necessity.
for lack of a
Yes.
better word, just desperate.
chip
you know?
on your shoulder.
It sounds like maybe that described you guys.
I mean, that was literally those first 3 years of the company. You know, when you asked us like what happened from 2020 to 2023, is like we were very clear on what we wanted to build.
We did some crazy things.
But we had no idea how to build it, and we didn't know who the right people were.
We once like hit up an engineer saying like, hey, we're just in the city for,
Yeah.
we bought a flight,
nice.
like 4-hour flight or 3-hour flight just to have dinner with someone, but told them like, hey,
We're
We
gonna
were
be
just
here.
we're just here for
I mean, I would
some-
literally see someone. I would see someone on the subway with a Swift shirt, and I would go
Yo.
up and go talk to them.
Wow.
Or like go to a WeWork and see people coding and just start trying
How
to
do
talk
you
with them.
test for this intuition ping pong thing
Yeah.
though. Like,
I think the one thing that, we're still figuring it out, right? Like we're
yeah,
basically.
but you clearly hired enough people that
Yeah.
you have this relationship with, hearing you talk about it.
I mean, look, our two founding engineers, for example, who we have this like ping pong like relationship with, Ryan and Miles, both of them are really, really strong designers. Even though they're engineers, they're really, really strong designers on their own and have a really good eye for design, which is very important to Jose and I, because that's one thing that we really value in ourselves, is just having a good eye for design. And then two, they are builders, right? Like both of them had a lot of side projects on their own, outside of the work that they were doing. Miles, our founding iOS engineer, had his own music app called Andante. Ryan had his own agency called Fort Green Engineering. He had both built a lot of things, so they had a lot of agency over doing things. So I think both of those things made them like a perfect fit for us. Strong design sense, and then just builders at heart. So which balanced us, because we're not builders in that sense.
What about designing a product that, on one hand, is used by presumably tons of kids uploading their first song they've ever made, and a product that, 2 weeks ago, Lorde dropped that I think, as far as I understand, you guys had very little notice on.
All organic.
She organically dropped a basically follow up to her album with
Yeah.
those are very, very different stratas of
She
users.
that made us cry too, because she dropped the museum
Exactly.
behind her album. Like
Yeah,
what Dan was
right.
saying about like how you walk into a museum and you get to see all the notes, all the drafts, all the context. Like she used our product in the way that we dreamed about using it.
This is
6
sort of the
years ago.
evolution of the medium,
Literally
right?
a dream
Yes.
come true.
Yes, it was.
And you don't
so
understand
cool.
how many times in the last 6 years we try to force that.
Ah,
We try to convince artists hey, drop the demos. Hey, put liner notes. We try to literally brainwash them to want to do it. And then we see Lorde, obviously one of the biggest artists in the world, do this out of her own volition.
how
literally,
did it happen? Or what was your initial reaction when you?
I mean, we just got a call from the manager.
We didn't even believe it.
Yeah, we
Like,
got a
were
call
like,
from the
There's no way
manager.
this. You know,
And especially in music,
who
the one
knows
thing
what's
you
gonna
learn is that musicians are very flimsy, and one day they say they're gonna do something, and the next day they say they're gonna do something else.
Yeah.
So we never nowadays it's sad, but we never believe anything an artist says until we see it happen.
And
No, straight up.
that's one of the most fucked up things about this is Dan and I would get so excited, talk about innovation, talk about childlike curiosity. In some ways, Dan and I would get so excited about certain things
Yeah.
6 years ago in music that were just very new to us.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's you don't understand how much stuff happens in this office on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Amazing artists recording music, amazing artists getting interviewed, building product, events, performances, just all sorts of things are happening all day long here. And we're getting a little desensitized. And and so with the Lorde thing, it was such a surreal moment when it happened.
What do you think she saw? Also, for listeners' context, if you want to check it out, we can link to it. She dropped, I think, 49
49 demos.
demos
Yeah, demos.
from her album on the annual
From Virgin.
on the anniversary of the album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was kind of 5-ish demos per song.
Right.
Yeah.
And she had liner notes saying this is the beat. I texted when I heard this beat originally, I told Jimmy do not send it to anyone. This one's mine.
Jimmy is, for context, Jim Eastack is her producer who worked on the entire album with her. So you would see notes between
So
what
cool.
their story was of the
Wow.
song. And
You would play it through and there'd be little differences.
Yeah.
between the
And the one thing that's really, really cool is that, I mean, as we told you, the manager called us 2 days before it happened saying hey, we want to do this. We just have these technical questions. We're all right, cool. Here are the questions. And Jose and I kind of stopped talking about it because, again, we are so desensitized to these things that we don't expect them to happen until they actually happen.
Yeah.
And then it happened. And I think what was really cool of an experience was that, getting, I mean, we used to talk a lot about this, but getting all the context of an album or a project makes you then want to go listen to that project more.
Yes.
So for example,
It's reciprocal.
yeah. So for example, I know Jose, this was a big thing for him with the Beatles, right? Watching the Get Back documentary was what led him to want to go actually listen to the Beatles' album, not the other way. Right?
I wasn't a Beatles hater, but I was kind of why does everyone
Yeah.
love the Beatles so much. Like I don't. It just feels kind of like just plain to me. I don't know why I thought that way. And then I see the Get Back documentary. I'm like, why does anybody else
Yeah.
make music? Like no one. Like why did anyone try to make music? It was like a complete 180.
So that's what happened with the Lorde thing for me personally. You know, it's like now I actually listen to the album more, whereas before, to be frank, I didn't really listen to it. So that's what's so beautiful about getting these experiences is you just develop a deeper relationship with the music. You get to understand it more. And I think with Lorde, what's cool is that obviously she's one of the biggest artists in the world and is doing this. But now, we're seeing, the other day there was this kid in the studio named XRAYS. He literally started, he's 16 years old now. He started making music with Untitled at 13. This kid just got a record deal. Like he's actually growing a lot, right? As
In a bidding war.
In a bidding war. Like he was one of those types of situations. Now imagine a world where Zay is like 28, 29. He's a big artist. He's a massive artist. And now he's still using Untitled. He gets to go into Untitled and see the shit that he was making when he was 13 in an easy way, like the same way we do with the Photos app.
Right.
Imagine if Tyler had Untitled. Tyler, the creator, had Untitled when he was 15. But the problem is he didn't, right? So now it's like, I want to go find the demos that I made when I was 15.
My old MacBook.
Who the fuck knows where those are?
But yes, I think that just going back to your question of like, why is a 16-year-old using the same product as like a bigger artist, like a Lorde, or how does it work? We generally think of it similar to why does everyone use iMessage? Literally, everyone, or WhatsApp abroad.
I suppose my counter argument would be, and to be clear, my question is less why does this happen? My question is more how do you design for both?
Oh.
But I guess my counter argument would be like everyone uses iMessage because of network effects, and obviously your product has some network effects, but like for it being a great tool for an artist, it's less about that and way more about is this ergonomic and useful and intuitive?
Yeah.
Maybe in Lorde's case, it was particularly about the distribution part of it, but like designing a product for both those users is really, really.
It goes back to what Jose was saying, which is around listening, right? Like we first wanted to build a tool that was so simple to listen to your own music or the music that your friend or collaborator is sharing with you.
Yeah.
And the reality is that whether you're a 14-year-old kid who's barely learning how to make beats in his bedroom,
Right.
or your Lorde, you both want to listen to your music as easy as if it were Spotify, because you both probably use Spotify or Apple Music. Right. So you both want that experience. And Lorde, for example, we've never talked to Lorde directly, but if I had to guess, the reason why she did it was because listening to her demos on Untitled is extremely easy and seamless and a much better experience than like listening to them on like Dropbox. So why would she share her Dropbox list?
Yes. There's a quote you guys have that I think ties into something we were talking about around the museum idea. In fact, if an artist is releasing maybe, let's say 10 albums over the course of their career, which is maybe like 100 to 200 songs, then they've definitely made over 10,000 songs. A lot of that music gets sent to just a few people, whether it's your mom, your significant other, whatever. I was thinking about this, and it was funny you brought it up because I was thinking about that moment in the Get Back documentary where Paul's strumming his way into Get Back. It's one of the more miraculous sort of
sick.
Seeing and you see the song go from nothing into something.
Yeah. And like one of the best songs ever.
You hear it over,
literally
over and over.
It's miraculous.
Which repetition in that thing, like don't let me down, is maybe one of my favorite songs now because of that. You hear it so many freaking times, so many times that there's a moment where Paul actually tried to fuck up the song and add like these like this kind of like back in this like call and response between him and John actually was down.
Yeah.
And they tried it out, and then you never actually realize, you never get told in the documentary what happened that went back to the original vibe, but they still tried it out, and it's a story. It's the story of the song.
So I was thinking about this, and granted, I think it's important context that documentary came out, 50 plus years after the album was made. There's and in many ways, like this is kind of a thematic of, we talked about this a bit earlier, your product, at least from a distribution standpoint or a consumption standpoint for artists sharing with the world, is about work in progress, the museum. There's a line I come back to often from Jerry Seinfeld, and he says, all art is disguising work. And his point is that artists are a bit like the magician who
Such a good line.
hides something behind the curtain. And the thing you see, it just looks easy and simple and elegant.
Yeah.
But in fact, all this work is hidden behind.
Yes.
And so in some sense, there's this tension, which is like, we live in a, especially today, maybe more than any other era, creatives are putting the process on display more than ever before. The tech analogy would be the working with the garage door open. And yet, there is something to like, I don't know how.
Building in public.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
Building in public.
I knew that was coming.
Yet there is something to like, I don't get any of the process and I just get delivered the magical finished thing.
Yeah.
I guess this, and it's a false dichotomy. Like, I don't think these things aren't inherently at odds.
Yeah.
But I am curious how you, especially going back to the medium stuff, how do you think about this? What are your expectations for how artists will play with this spectrum? Obviously, your product is in some sense kind of on one end of the spectrum.
It's an amazing question because honestly, part of what we learned of the last 6 years when we were trying to brainwash artists to share the demos
Yeah.
is that one, many artists don't want you to see the demos,
Right.
right? Like,
That was a big issue.
Yeah.
Like the 3 years before launching.
yeah.
If you know how the trick is done,
Many artists
does
don't
it
want you
ruin
to
the
see
trick?
it. I mean, it's like Frank Ocean's whole thing where he had the hard drive that he would travel with, one for security and two because he would say that if he died, he didn't want people to like listen to like the unfinished music. He wanted the tracks to go down with him if he like the plane fell down. So like people, like some artists don't want you to see that, you know? And many fans at the same time don't give a fuck about the demos. You know, you have to be a psycho obsessive.
or maybe I care a year in or 50
yeah,
years
it's niche. It's niche. It's niche.
And
Yes.
back in the day, Dan and I would personally onboard every single artist.
Wow.
And we'd be like, you can share your demos. You can, the whole
Okay.
story, the museum.
Publish with us,
All
right?
these things.
Yeah.
It's like, they'd be like, I don't care about any of that. Why would I want to share my demos with anyone? And then we'd be like, you don't understand. And it's, look, it's true. Like, it's not at scale. You know, Seinfeld quote is amazing, you know, and people barely have enough time to look at the main thing that you work so hard and that is perfectly polished. It's rare that we get a get back documentary. That's a rare thing. And that's why
You almost have to earn the right to give that.
And that's why this version of Untitled, the one that launched, is not it's not called a work in progress, the medium, or like the project primitive is not called a work in progress, it's called a project.
Yeah.
Because we decided, you know what, let's just, and that's kind of the getting out of the way thing. It's like, let's let people use it for however they want to use it. And we are so grateful that Lorde used it in that way. So grateful. And we hope that she got a lot out of it and her fans got a lot out of it. We certainly connected to her record more because of it. And we'd love to see some of our favorite artists do it more. But we're also very aware that the product needed to be kind of directed and carved in a certain way that wasn't going to pigeonhole itself into that.
Yes. I would also observe that it's telling that your incentives from a business standpoint, the majority of your revenue is not artists selling unreleased songs to their fans. It is artists and creatives paying a subscription to you to use this tool.
Yes.
I mean, that's the magic of Untitled, right? Is that we're focused on the artist, right? And we want to build great tools for the artist, and the business model is incentivizing us to do that. But I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, we don't need to dwell too much on this, but it is interesting how like this museum analogy, like the museum only matters if you're a goat. You know, like no one wants to go to a museum of someone who isn't a goat.
Right.
You know, like so.
I mean, and that specifically happens in the art world. So there's so much friction. There's only so many museums. There's only so many
You have
exhibits.
to be Lindy for anyone to care about you being in a museum.
Like someone's going, the only people that are gonna, you know, be able to like get their fans to drop what they're doing and listen to their demos and listen to the work in progress are the artists who made such an amazing piece of art that people are obsessed with it and love it so much. In the same way that the Beatles did. And, you know, I guess Lorde now is doing that too because her fans clearly wanted to listen to that stuff.
How do you maintain trust with artists? Maybe this is duplicative, but what is the like philosophy around maintaining trust with a bunch of artists who love your product as you're trying? Maybe a different way to frame the question would be, you have this product that's really beloved,
Yep.
that's relatively simple, that's adding complexity, and yet you also want to build the biggest music company in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like making sure that artists still trust you on that way up. By the way, as you introduce AI features as an example, or whatever it's going to be, like maybe it's just intuition, but how do you think about that?
Yeah, so, part of us wanting to build the biggest music company in the world is because we want to build like the best ecosystem for the artist, right? And to be able to build the best ecosystem, we think, because it hasn't existed yet, is that you have to build a vertically integrated music company. A company across creation to consumption. Obviously, this is very ambitious, and this is part of our 10, 20-year plan. But we genuinely believe that if we're able to do that all in one place, it's going to be a way better experience for the artist, right? If you're using one thing to do it all, then it's going to be a good experience.
But I would argue that makes trust even more important.
Yes, for sure. And look, at the end of the day, we're figuring this out ourselves, right? Because it's kind of part of the growing problems and the growing pains. But I think at the end of the day, the main thing for us to be able to continue scaling and continuing earning the trust of artists, we just have to continue to build tools that are genuinely useful to artists.
And I do think the incentive piece is important. Like artists can just intuitively, so many people come into our studio or, meet with us and they're like, you're the only company that cares about artists. And I see so many companies, like for example, like a Tidal, for example, or, other people that are like doing so many campaigns and marketing, like saying like how much they care about artists, or like doing so much tactics to kind of prove to artists that like they should be the brand that artists rep the most. And yet with us, I think it's part of the fact that they love the product and they just are in love with it. But it's also just the business model is so clean and so aligned. Like we're not doing anything that's like raising eyebrows. So from that perspective, they come in here and they just get it. They get that we care about them and we're charging them.
Yeah.
But they feel good about that.
Yeah, it is really quite beautiful to know that at the end of the day, the thing that keeps the lights on is like making sure artists love what you're doing. And it even goes down to like, something that is newer at Untitled, but it has become a meaningful part of our day-to-day is our brand, right? And we call our go-to-market team the brand team because at the end of the day, we don't really feel like we're like going to market when it comes to Untitled. Like we feel like we're building a great tool and naturally artists are finding it and using it and sharing it with others. Like we don't have to do much to go to them nowadays. I mean, in some ways they're coming to us because we have the studio. But our
favorite products, like the way that Dan and I kind of fall in love with products is the storytelling and the brand. Yeah. So for us, it's like, oh, okay, if that's how we engage with products, we want to sort of and we're still figuring this out. We have no idea how to do this, but we're temporarily calling the entire go-to-market team the brand team. It's like everything is brand and everything is a story, and it's just how we get the thing that we're making here out to customers. And that all requires this like very meticulous storytelling effort.
And brand really is like this universe that we're building, right? So part of our dream before actually starting Untitled, this company, was actually getting a piece of land. Right? Like before we decided that we were going to build Untitled and build the software company, we wanted to get a piece of land. We were going to call it manzana, which is apple in Spanish.
But it was going to be stylized as two words.
Like manzana.
Healthy man.
But we were going to get a piece of land, and this land was going to be the place where we did all of our experiments. It was going to be this like ecosystem of all these like cultural music experiments that we wanted to do, from a festival to a recording studio to having also a software play, et cetera, et cetera. But we decided that obviously that was quite the endeavor to try and start with. So we wanted to first build software. And now that we're obviously 6 years in, we've been fortunate enough to get this amazing building in Williamsburg where we're sitting in now. We have a 3-story building. We have the retail floor. We have the second floor, and we have the third floor, which is where we're sitting in, where the studio is. And then we also have the rooftop where we do shows. And essentially, with this whole building, we've essentially allowed ourselves to build an ecosystem of everything that an artist needs, right? We have the second floor, which is like where we build the software, where we build the tooling. We have the third floor, which is where we've built the studio. It took us a year to build the studio. And this isn't like one of those like hyper like simple studios. We literally have this super technical thing that Jose and I barely know how to use, but we know a lot of artists really appreciate.
What is that thing?
It's the patch bay.
It's like a rack of preamps.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Like, have you ever seen like plugins, like a reverb plugin? Like those are like the physical versions of it. And then we have the rooftop where we do shows, and artists can come perform.
Cool.
And then the retail floor, which is still being built out, is a place where we're gonna have more office, and also we're gonna have a little area where artists are gonna be able to actually sell things, right? So if you want to sell your merch, you want to sell vinyl, you want to sell rare music here, you could do that all here. So this whole building is almost turning into like the Willy Wonka's chocolate factory of music, where you can do it all in here, and we have our own universe.
8,000 square feet of indoor space, 5,000 square feet of outdoor space,
Crazy.
4 different performance spaces, and the engineering, design, brand team all intermixed. Doing research with an artist to see what we want to build with them. They're performing, they're recording, they're selling their stuff all in the same place.
It's almost like the Get Back documentary, but with software too.
You call on the website and many other places, you say Untitled is a sacred place for your unreleased music. What does the word sacred mean to you guys?
I think it's like the feeling that you get where you're like vulnerable, or like kind of comfortable. Sometimes you might feel it when you're like at home in your pajamas. Like, I was actually thinking about it yesterday. Like, I was like, why do I feel so comfortable on my computer right now doing work? Would I feel the same way at the office right now? And there's just like a feeling of like doing work at night, like kind of like by your bed, you're kind of getting ready to go to sleep. It's like this feeling of vulnerability, rawness. So that's what we want people to feel when they enter Untitled, is this feeling that it is really like their home for their unreleased music, a sacred place, being sort of the up-leveling of that word. It's kind of like it's a little bit mystical, not just your home, it's the sacred place.
I think sacred is also something that you don't take for granted. I think it's very easy. For example, I think we were talking to an employee right before this. It was their one-on-one, and accidentally we missed it because we were in another meeting. And I think Jose said like, this is like a sacred time for you. It's up to you if you want to do it or not. Like, if we have something to discuss, we'll tell you, but regardless, like, it's a sacred time for you. Which that made me feel like, it's a time that you don't need to take for granted. Like, it's something that's special, and it's something that is very intentional, So I don't know. I think that's what I feel when I open Untitled, right? Like, it feels very intentional when I'm going on there, because I open up Untitled, and oftentimes like I'm going on there because I want to listen to something very specific.
Yep.
Like, I very rarely, now it's a bit different because I have so much shit in my Untitled now that like I do sometimes go in there and browse and like to look for things and not know what I'm going to listen to.
It's more like browsing a library than an algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. It's very intentional when you get in there. You have to like choose specifically what you want, or you have to go in to do something specific.
There's a quote from an interview, I think the Big Kids interview. They'd asked you about discovery or something, and you, Jose, say, curation is hard. I can barely get Dan to listen to the music I like. We build products for ourselves first. As people who love music, it's refreshing to have a platform where you have to actively seek things out. In a world of passive listening, Untitled is for active choices. And then you, Dan, nothing feels better than an artist sharing something unreleased with you. It feels amazing.
Yeah, there's like a partial truth to that. There's also like a partial, like us, like we're afraid to do discovery because we don't want to fuck it up, and that's part of this next
back to
chapter.
Scaling a sacred place is not easy.
Yeah, that's part of this. So like, I think like the issue with Spotify, like Dan and I have gone through the hero's journey of like being obsessed with Spotify's discovery and curation and algorithmic playlists, all those things, and then staying on there long enough to like not like it, you know? And I feel like all of these different products are just staying, and then, you know, there's some algorithms right now, like, you know, that are just super relevant, but not in music. In music, it's just hard, you know. It's like my brother Leon just started using Spotify for the first time in the last couple of years. He's obsessed with it, but I wonder how he's gonna feel in like 4 or 5 years, you know, like because he's discovering music from like 10 years ago that we would all listen to.
Right.
So that's the thing. That's the fear there, is that like we've seen even the best of the best kind of crush it, and then like no longer crushing it in certain ways. But so that's kind of the fear part of it that's not in that quote. But we're like kind of getting over it, and we're just gonna do it and just see what happens, you know, big risk, big reward. But it is actually true. Like you can you send someone a song and it's like, did you listen to it? You know? And then they're like, oh, sorry, not yet, you know? So it's like, if you're getting a recommendation from a friend and you're barely listening to that, like, how do you expect me to, you know, trust some tastemaker, you know, in Union Square, you know, telling me to listen to this up and coming musician?
Yeah, one thing that I think, going back to building a platform that you don't take for granted and that you approach with a lot of intention, is that we've actually built certain mechanics that make it feel very special when you receive unreleased music. Because when you receive someone's music, like when if Jose shares a project with me on Untitled, we send a notification when someone listens to it. So if Jose sends something to me, he's basically waiting for my read receipt.
Right.
You know, he's waiting. Right. And I know, because I obviously use Untitled, right. I know that
There's a norm established.
Yeah.
Right.
I know that he'll see if I listen to it or not. So I want to make sure he knows that, like, I received his music and I listened to it, you know? Whereas with other platforms, like with Spotify, as I was just saying, like, for me to know if he listened to something I sent him, I have to like annoy him, be like, yo, did you listen? Did you listen? And there's no...
There's like a template there for...
There is a read receipt now on Spotify, not about listening,
really?
but it is kind of cool. So every week we have this thing called Song of the Week. This guy Colin on our team, when he first joined, he's like, hey, is there a place where we can all share music with each other? And then we decided to make a channel called Song of the Week on Fridays. And I noticed that if you put in a Spotify link into that Song of the Week channel,
oh, it saves it in the DMs.
Whoever clicks on it,
I saw that too, will
appear in your DMs. So the other day, someone sent me music from our company, and I clicked on it, and it took me to the DMs, and then the song that I'd sent for the Song of the Week appeared, and I'm like, you clicked on the link. You clicked on, and you know, he didn't tell me about it, but you know, it's kind of cool.
There's a template here, I think, around. We have so much quote unquote abundance in digital space, and like we have very few sacred things. There's very little weight. There's very little substance. And so I do wonder if there's a template here to like explore making digital interactions more meaningful, separate. Like not all links are created equal.
Yeah.
And so there is something about how can a song shared with me on Untitled feel totally different and almost heavier or more substantial than a random other link. And I think we'll probably see lots of exploration across digital mediums in that way, as we just become so numb to everything.
People are yearning for that. I'm seeing so many apps, like these, like kind of like disposable camera, like these limitations, these like you know, even the things that are like turn off your phone, like what's the thing that you use? That, like,
Opal.
Like all these things that are just like, let me like try to like.
People are just craving like offline IRL feeling experiences. Yes. You know, like even in the digital, right? Like like what Jose was just
friction
saying, like,
creates meaning.
Yeah, exactly. And even if we're artificially creating those constraints, people are craving that.
Yeah, and I will be honest, like I know that this is obviously super biased on our end, but if we're talking about that, like what is a product out there that is super sacred feeling, offline, IRL, physical, whatever, you know, analogy, adjective you want to give it, feeling and works, like that people like actually like it's not
has
just
utility.
it's not just a
tool.
gimmick like
Yeah.
oh I'm gonna do this once or I'm gonna do this twice or whatever, like you actually use it on a weekly basis. I actually do think like if for some reason the future is moving in that direction where people are searching for more like get rid of the noise, give me that like human connection that we've all needed for thousands of years and it's kind of escaping us. I do think Untitled is kind of like yeah, I can't think of another product.
I mean, one of the things that we used to say when people would ask us like, oh, why isn't there a feed? And one thing that we would talk about is that we're a very intimate product. And for you to have things on your Untitled, you need to like connect with people outside of Untitled. Right? Like I need to like meet you and hang out with you and be your friend, most likely for you to like send me something on Untitled. And even now, like talking about curation, like honestly, Jose and I talk a lot about this, but the way I discover most music nowadays is literally via this building and the people that are coming in and out of this building. Like this building is my algorithm.
And so,
You know,
so we're like, okay, so how do we, because it's like, oh, in the spirit of building things for yourself, how do you build that into Untitled? It's like, all right, I guess we got to build for VR.
Yeah.
Because like literally, like, I don't know how you,
Yeah, I don't know how that scales. I mean, it's
Well,
weird.
it's world building of some kind.
Yeah.
We have to talk about it briefly. I think a lot of artists, and maybe even more than artists, a lot of fans of music are very stressed and upset or afraid about AI. As I understand it, the product today, you have stem splitting. That's probably it.
Yeah.
From an AI standpoint.
Yeah.
I guess I'm broadly curious how you guys are feeling. You made a comment earlier about being there. There's going to be a point where you listen to AI music that gives you that special feeling.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you think artists are feeling. How do you think about, how does all this inform a product standpoint?
Very quickly, we were in the presence of greatness a few months ago, just like
I was thinking the same thing.
such a goat. And they played an AI song and they're like, just listen to this, like best song ever made. And like, it was all made with AI. And we listened to it. Dan and I did not get that feeling that we were talking about, but just seeing someone.
But the artist was earnest about it.
This person is like in their 80s.
They're
or
like
late 70s.
they were very excited about that song, which means something, obviously, coming from a goat. So like it's clearly happening. Is all I want to say. Is
Yeah.
Like I don't want to. I don't want to lie and say that I've experienced that yet, but I'm so open-minded to it, and it is.
Whereas
happening.
most people in the audience are not. They're
Yeah. No, continue.
Please.
I do want to say, I think there's one quote that we got from a goated electronic artist.
Oh.
That
Oh my God.
is based in Stockholm.
Oh
I'm
my
not going to
God.
say specific names.
Oh my God.
But their band name is synonymous with Sweden. Okay? We were in his presence, right? He's an amazing human being, really smart dude. And
This is a bar.
We asked him, you know, what does he think about AI and AI being trained on his music? And he said, I trained on other people's music. So,
do you think you'll when it comes to the intuition around this and your next AI feature, will it be driven by artists asking for it? Will it be driven by
The AI stuff?
the capability? Yeah. Because by the way, I think it's worth noting that one of the earliest points we hit, and one of the when I first met you guys a couple of years ago, we talked about this. Like, part of the implication with that, what's changing in music as a medium, like it being reduced to just the choices, is that way more people are going to be able to create music as a result of this. Yes. Like in some sense, it's very in line with the thesis of the entire vision, and yet it's delicate, I guess, is my point. May I ask it in the simplest way possible? What will cause you to launch Untitled's second AI feature?
I think the thing, I mean, going back to incentives, right? We built a company and we built a business model that depends on us building amazing tools for artists and tools that they find extremely useful,
Yes.
right? If not, the company, the business doesn't work if we don't do that.
Yep.
And so when it comes to any tooling, whether it's AI or not AI, our biggest question whenever we introduce something is this useful to an artist, right? And with AI, you know, Jose and I, as we were telling you, like we love music and we want to be making music a lot, but we're not musical. And so AI is the next thing to allow people like us to make music. And it's the next thing to allow the next billion people to make music, right? So we're very much, you know, open-minded about AI and we're excited about the future that it brings. Now, is AI, you know, in the place that it is now ready for Untitled? And is it something that we think could be really useful to artists on Untitled right now? We're still unsure.
Yeah.
You know, we're like figuring it out. We know it's going to be at some point. You know, we know at some point the artists right now who are feeling very, you know, negative about AI, which we understand because AI maybe is trained on music that they didn't get the access to. And we totally understand where that sentiment comes from. But we know that at some point or another, AI will be in a place that most artists are going to want to use it because it's very useful to their workflow. In the same way that auto-tune is now like unanimous in music. Like no one like criticizes using auto-tune because everyone knows it's very useful. But in the early 2000s, when auto-tune was barely new,
taboo.
People were criticizing it a ton.
And by the way, that same person, amazing bar, by the way, and I think like that really would help anyone, like in the grand scheme of things, the fact that we all train on other people's music. That same person said, like, listen, like I still haven't had he said, I'm super open-minded to AI being the thing that I use, but I still haven't been able to make something that I couldn't make otherwise with AI. The way that autotune literally actually allowed you to sing, like 808s and Heartbreak, literally Kanye started
sound.
Wouldn't exist without
Kanye
it.
started singing, it wouldn't exist without it.
Yeah.
He's like, I still haven't. In fact, AI right now is like regurgitating things that I could already do.
Right.
So we're kind of figuring it out. Like Dan and I, as non-musical people, it actually does for us. Like we are the target market. You know, we're the ICP or whatever because we love writing songs and we love being creative, but we aren't musical at all. So it is giving us, you know, musical superpowers. The issue with it is that Untitled is this very intentional place where you like work on something for hours and then you put it there and it feels good. With AI, it really does take like 50 tries to get a good song. So we're wrestling with the idea of like, can we create a dedicated place inside of Untitled that can be this like massive, like think about work in progress, take work in progress and take it to the nth degree because it's like, it's not even like work and it's not even really
it's just
in
choices.
progress. It's like
the playground versus the
800
workspace.
directions and find the one that works. It's kind of like crazy. So it's like, can we actually redesign Untitled in certain ways to let in all of that output and not distract from the really, really good stuff that you want to kind of sit there without distraction?
Yeah.
And I mean, I would say that I think it's funny because nowadays when you say especially AI in music, the thing that people only think about is like generative shit, right? Like people are like, oh, musicians hate AI. And it's like the only thing that they think of is like Suno and like, you know, generative models. But there's so much other types of AI that could be used to actually superpower the creative process that isn't generative. And that's something that we're thinking about right now. Cool. You know, right now we've built this corpus of unreleased music. We've built the de facto storage tool for a lot of artists and producers. Now, how can we use AI to help them, you know, organize that scattered brain? Like, how can we turn into, you know, the Google Photos of music, you know, where like we help you organize, we help you be, you know, like your assistant, your producer who's like putting everything together in an easy to understand way.
Even just being able to say like, hey, what synthesizer did Stevie Wonder use or whatever, so that you can go into your computer and like pull up a similar sound. Like ChatGPT is helping a lot with that. Dan was saying the other day, like he loves doing research on artists using ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's the best. I mean, it's literally like going back. It's kind of interesting. When I first started doing it, I was like, this is magical, right? Instead of me having to go and like spend hours trying to piece together all the interviews and the videos and all of that, ChatGPT or Claude can literally just make a deck for me with like the entire just like synopsis of the artist, which is awesome. But then on the other hand, I'm like, damn, surfing the web is so fun. Like the literal word, surfing.
Process is fun.
Surfing the web. Like you're surfing, you're going through the whole process of like finding things and putting them together. That
That's
stuff
the
is
tension.
fun. That's the part, the exciting part. So
A couple questions on you guys and your collaboration. First, are you guys artists? I promise it's not.
what is an artist?
Gotcha. I don't know.
You know, so
Do you feel like artists?
I feel like a spiritual human being. That's, you know, that's it.
I'll take it. What is the best thing about working with a very close friend? And maybe to add it, what is the worst thing?
There's work and there's life. And when you do what Dan and I are doing, you get to pursue your life's work, you know, and the clock is never off, you know, but you get to have fun with your best friend all the time, you know, so you can't escape work. You can't compartmentalize that much. The things in your life will sort of always be there while you're at work. But you get to go to Stockholm and go on an amazing 5-mile run with your best friend and hang out with one of the coolest artists in the world and sort of enjoy life while also pursuing your curiosity.
100%. I think the other thing that I've been reflecting on recently is that as you get older, right? Like once you like become an adult and you get married and you have kids and all of that, like spending meaningful time with friends, like close friends, like people who you just enjoy their company, there's no like agenda, right? Becomes much more difficult.
Yep.
Right? You have to like schedule and you have to find time and you have to like, you know, go out of your way to find time with these people, right? Like maybe I only get 1 or 2 dinners a week with this person for like 2 hours, right? It becomes much harder to schedule times with friends that you have no agenda with, that you just want to enjoy
1
their
or 2
company.
hours, 1 or 2 dinners a week would be a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Even that's a lot. Maybe I'm not married nor I have kids, so you know maybe it's a bit different, but it just becomes more difficult. So when you work with your best friend, right, and work is the thing that most humans spend most of their time in, it's very, very magical to be able to have the opportunity to just go hang out with your friend and it's still work. You know, and like you don't have to like schedule anything. Like I don't have to schedule time to go get lunch with Jose or to go get dinner with Jose. You know, I just see him at the office every day.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's something really magical. I think that's something really magical oftentimes like family businesses, right? Because like you get to go see your family every day because you just have to work with them. So I think that's one of the most magical things about working with someone. That's
Have there been any challenges or any things you guys have had to give up?
You also have you have enough time. Part of challenges and things like that, you have enough time to get to the bottom of things.
Yeah.
You know, which is both beautiful once you get there, but it can be really hard as well. But to Dan's point, like who do you really have in life that you can spend that much time with?
Yeah.
You know, like how many unresolved issues are there between a bunch of people that are close, different levels of closeness, that if you had all the time in the world, if we had all the time in the world, you know, please AI, please build this, give everyone all the time in the world with every single person that you love, really hard, really, really hard, especially, you know, your parents, you know, like it's so hard. Dan and I have the privilege of having all the time in the world with each other. And that's allowed us to get through so much. And that's the only reason that this company has gotten to where it is today. It's a miracle that we're here as non-technical founders, non-musicians, you know, who built this company. And but it's our relationship and our ability to get through anything together is the thing that gets it there. Dan and I did trade sort of, this is our first business, so we did trade this like, how would you say it? Like we had a sacred, we were basically teasing each other, flirting with each other for like whatever, 24 years, dreaming about starting a company. And then you start the company, and then you get the full reality of what it's like to do everything together.
Right.
So we definitely entered a new universe together.
Yeah, new
and
stakes.
There's really no going back, and the only way is through.
Yeah.
And thankfully we have all the time in the world, but I think that's one of the elements that you get when you go so deep with someone, especially when it's not like it's like CTO, CEO, you do this, I do that. Most co-founder relationships are these,
it's more transactional.
No, but it's not even like let's like compare. It's more so it's like I do this, you do that. Like I bring this function to the company and you bring that function to the company, and that's why we're here together at work.
Yep.
I also think the last thing I will say about this is that we're a hyper creative company. We're a creativity company. The thing that we have going for us is our ideas and our intuition. And in order to tap into that creativity in you, you oftentimes need to feel like a child, right? The childlike curiosity. And so if you're literally working with your childhood best friend, it's almost like a hack to tap into your childlike creativity.
And there are people, I think any of us can relate to this. There's certain people when you get to be with them, you get to almost go back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You feel silly. You feel like you can make weird jokes.
Dan and I constantly just bait each other into these like bits, these like just like
we have some weird ass inside jokes.
Weird things with and so we kind of constantly bring each other back into like, yo, this is fun.
Yeah. I really like that quote by Josh Kushner, which is, I don't know if he said it, but I think maybe his grandmother said it or something, which is that, success in life is like being excited to go to work and being excited to come back home from work.
Indeed.
Yeah.
A few final things. Do you have a dream Untitled user that you're willing to say?
Paul McCartney.
That's a good choice. I'm 2 for 2 on Paul McCartney. Last 2 podcasts, Paul's been mentioned. So
it's just someone who's such a goat, and like has had such a profound impact on my life and has had such a profound impact on culture at large. And, is obviously at an age where, maybe you're like less inclined to like try out new technology and like less inclined to like use a new device or use something new, whatever. So having someone like a Paul who obviously has made music at the highest levels and is at the kind of tail end of his career and his life, use Untitled and actually find value out of it would just be a really nice feeling.
The dream sort of like artist, Dan's, going back to just like someone that's at their end of their life, kind of thing. And I think there's definitely that. But for me, favorite artist changes so often right now, speaking about like the algorithm being this building for us. I never used to listen to this artist named Porches. His name's Aaron, and he did a show on our roof like a week or 2 ago, and it was amazing. And my entire Apple Music right now is his entire discography because he's been making music for 10 years. I don't even know if he uses the app.
He does.
Okay.
I spoke to him about it.
Okay, because I was going to be like, maybe he's my dream.
No, I was going to say he already uses it, but...
He is a savant.
Yeah.
Like, he is truly wow, and I'm so excited about his music. We have some things coming up with him that it feels like we're like connected in some way, and so I love his music. I want him to keep, if he uses the app, I want him to keep using it, and I'm very excited for where we're, like some of the ideas that we're cooking up, because it's really special.
This is one of the coolest things about this life that we've designed for ourselves is that literally, we listen to music all the time. We can be listening to a new artist, right? Like, for example, there's this new artist named Ryan Brazil, right? Who's a really sick new popping artist. Still doesn't have that many listeners, but is rising a lot. And we could literally just DM them from the Untitled Instagram and be like, yo, I love your music. And they answer us, I love Untitled. My entire life is on Untitled. So let's do something.
It's like, I love you. I love
Yeah,
you.
it's just cool. It's just like, it's just like it's very, it's very nice.
I have some brackets for you guys we can speed run
Oh,
through.
cool.
Ooh,
San Diego or Mexico City?
San Diego.
San Diego.
The Beatles or Frank Ocean?
The Beatles.
Frank Ocean.
All right. Warhol or Duchamp?
Duchamp.
Warhol.
Drake or Kendrick?
You're catching me at a specific time with that question.
I was going to say Universal because they signed both of them.
Right now, I'm going to go Drake, but I love both of them.
Yeah,
and I was Kendrick during the beef. So,
Wow.
So, it's
possible.
It's like,
We all contain
the answer was
multitudes.
not, my Drake answer was not about the beef. It was about like, what music am I listening to right now? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say Drake outside of the Universal comment.
Record store or art museum?
Art museum.
Yeah, art museum.
But record store will usually be all love. Art museum will be like either fucking obsession or like, what the fuck is this? Like, all this sucks.
I don't like have a vinyl player at home. I very rarely listen to vinyl. We have a vinyl player in the office, but still don't really use it much. My music consumption happens on Spotify or on YouTube. So a record store, while very cool, like honestly, it doesn't mean that much to me. And that's a weird answer coming from someone who's obsessed with music. Whereas an art museum, like I don't consume art on my phone.
Right.
Like I'm not like scrolling like different like web pages, seeing like new art and learning about it. So art museum really is much more of a special experience.
Well, maybe on that note, studio or live show?
What's happening in the studio? Are we playing music or are we watching someone make music in the studio?
You're watching. You're
watching someone make music in the studio versus watching someone perform a live show. I'm going to say studio.
I guess that's on brand.
We are going to really do a festival one day that blurs the line between production and performance. So like there's like kind of like, are they making music? Are they performing music? So we'll get there, but I'll in the spirit of that, I'm going to go with studio for now.
All right.
To lean into that.
Blink-182 or Brockhampton?
Blink-182.
Blink-182.
Steve Jobs or Walt Disney?
Steve
Jobs.
CD or cassette? Or I guess vinyl?
CD.
You guys like CDs. CDs are not totally in vogue, but there's something about the CDs.
I mean, CDs for me personally were the first music that I owned.
Yeah,
sure.
Like I had the fucking huge ass binder, where you would just like go through the CDs. Whereas like vinyl, no, and cassettes neither. So,
if someday, hopefully in the far future, hopefully never, but maybe in the far future, Untitled ceases to be, what impact do you think would you hope that you had on musicians and on music?
That thought rarely enters, I think, both of our brains right now, but sometimes that thought does kind of come up. Just racing thoughts, sometimes you'll catch it for a second. And I am so at peace, I'm sure Dan is too, with what we've done. So at peace. In fact, talking about the 13-year-old kid that's now 16 and made his music, like the archives, the work, all of the music that people have made over the last few years, it's making its way into PR, management companies, record labels. The stories behind how songs were made are all stemming from Untitled. And similar to Get Back, taking 50 years for those stories to come to fruition. I don't even know what stories are going to come out of it, but like Dan and I did not start Untitled to create the most like game-changing technological innovation of its time. Like we didn't start an AI company, we didn't start an energy company, we didn't start like the types of companies that right now people are talking about as like the multi-trillion-dollar markets. We started it because we're obsessed with music and we're obsessed with each other, and we really wanted to make something that we were proud of, and we've done that already. And now we want to take it to the next level, and now it's all just time to like, what would you do if you weren't afraid kind of vibes. But in terms of that question, you know, we are very at peace with whatever, whenever that thought, which rarely comes up, you know, it's a very peaceful engagement with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I know for a fact there are many albums and songs that wouldn't have existed without Untitled. For sure. You know, I know this is a bold statement and I can't qualitatively say anything specific right now, but I just know that, you know, because of the types of messages, the types of ways that people describe Untitled. Like, it's pretty bizarre to see the messages that we get from our users. It's almost as if like we're an artist and we're getting messages from fans saying like how like their song like changed their life. Like, we get messages like that all the time. And now honestly, like, you know, we take it a bit for granted, but it is it's very powerful, and it's clear that we've built something that has helped people express themselves in ways that they couldn't before. So that's the one thing. But I think the other thing I would say, which is similar to what Jose is saying, like, I think something that we both love in our favorite artists is that they like constantly reinvented themselves, right? Like the best artists, like from one album to the next, like constantly reinvented themselves. Bob Dylan goes electric, you know, like that type of vibe. And I think we're in that right now, where we like made like a hit freshman album.
Yeah.
You know, we did it. We did something amazing. We did everything that we wanted to do when we were kids. And now it's time to like make like the sophomore album, right? And make like the next big one. You know, there's many analogies you could say, you know, like it's time to burn the ships, you know, and like build the next thing. And I think some of our investors will be happy about the way we're thinking about the future. But we really are in that mindset. So it's like almost like shed the past. Don't think about what we've done before. Like, now let's just think ahead.
One final very cliche or silly question, but how do you know when something is ready for a title?
I don't think you do. Like, I think it just like, it's like
you call time.
Yeah.
It's like on your podcast right now, it's like, yo, there's like, it's like constraints, literally.
Yeah.
I think that's what honestly, that's one of the beauties of the past, you know, when we actually had to like print CDs and like press vinyl, is that there was like a forced constraint. It's like,
necessity is
you can't
another
edit this. You know, we're going to spend millions of dollars printing this thing. We're going to spend millions of dollars distributing this thing. Like, this thing needs to be ready by this day.
Yes.
And it all needs to be decided on. It's deadlines, you know, something that we talk a lot about internally, like how we set an engineering culture that has deadlines. You know, back in the day when everything was so physical, you know, we created that constraint, and that led to decisions having to be made.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's more difficult.
Not to discount some people that have like created these like amazing concept albums, or like they like imagine something and it was always the same thing from the beginning. But yeah, I think a lot of music, a lot of works are, you know, I do think that it's just use constraints to your advantage and get out of the way.
I mean, oftentimes, many artists, like the title of their song is like the first thing that came up in their head when they were saving the session on Ableton, or even like what the voice memo is called. Or in our case, you know, we knew that was going to happen. We knew there was going to be many artists that like didn't want to think about.
Notion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that's is a great segue. So the name Untitled without the brackets, when it first came into fruition, was because when we first started the company, we set up a Notion, right, to like start organizing documents and whatnot. And because
make it a little real almost.
Yeah, because we didn't have a name for the company yet, we just put Untitled HQ. That's it. And then as we were thinking about what the name for this company should be, you know, I think Jose was saying Ready Made. I think there was a time of saying Whip. And there's been many times in the last 6 years that after the company was originally founded that we were like debating the name again.
Yeah.
But anyways, in that first week that we started the company, you know, we kept going back to this notion. We kept seeing the name Untitled, and we're like, wait, that actually might be the perfect name. And the coolest part is that as the company has evolved, the more we've discovered why it's the perfect name. It's almost like God gave us the name.
Yep.
And then, you know, he's like, yo, you need to go figure out why it's called that.
Live into your destiny.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, Thank you so much. This
Thank
was
you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
This was awesome.
That's all I
You're
got.
the best.
Thank you for listening to my conversation with Dan and Jose, and thank you to Notion for presenting Dialectic. Notion is a collaborative workspace for your life's work that people like Dan and Jose a few years ago at the very beginnings of Long Journey, all the way up to large organizations, use to collaborate and run their businesses. Today, having a place where everyone on your team is on the same page, is working off the same information, and now your agents have direct access into as well, is truly powerful. Notion has also transformed itself in the last year to become truly native for working in the AI era. That starts with custom integrations around AI, but also includes custom agents, little guys who work in your workspace, Notion Workers, which are part of their large developer platform that allows for fully custom integrations with all of the AI tools that you use and allow things to run 24/7 even while you sleep. And in many ways has allowed Notion to become something like an operating system for your business to run and work with AI. You can learn more at notion.com/dialectic. And if you don't use Notion or haven't tried it in a while, I would encourage you to check out all of the leverage and power that comes from the modern version of Notion. And maybe even create a new blank page, perhaps with a collaborator, and attempt something ambitious. With that, thank you for listening to Dialectic, and I will see you next time.